Alright, so the station technically has power, but it's barely enough to keep the lights on. If I want this place to survive, let alone grow, I need real power system. So today, I'm going to expand the grid, powering up and turning this skeleton into a real station. Alright, so we did a whole bunch of drilling, as you see here, so that we could plot out where we're going to put our core central location of our reactor. And of course, it's going to be a small reactor for the time being because we don't have all the mats and materials for a large one. Initially, I was thinking, why don't make a room for a power station? Really no point, because this is going to be the core central location. Because, again, we're going to do a hamburger style station with the asteroid. So just imagine, as you see it here, we're going to cut the whole section right down the middle, and we'll be the meats, and the buns will be the asteroid. But for now, we got the central location of where we're going to plot the reactor. So first things first, we are going to throw in, well, we could throw in a large reactor for now, which would be this thing here. Ooh, do I want to do several of these? I might want to do several of these actually to line it up to make it look a little bit better. So it would be something like that. And once we get this a little bit taller, we could put a lot more as well. But this is what I'm kind of thinking of having the core reactor to be for the time being. But in terms of making a current station, we're going to do a small reactor, which we could utilize the warfare reactor. Although I think the original reactor may look a little bit better to be placed in the core for the time being, unless we do kind of like this, which is a little bit upside down or sideways or whatever the case may be. I mean, that's not too bad. We'll just do that for now. And it's going to take 100 reactor components, which we don't have with us. But the good news is that one of these ships, the cargo ships that we got, does have a reactor, and that's right here. We technically had enough for another one, but my stupidity of throwing out all my materials lost a bunch of them, so there's that. So I'm gonna take from this reactor. I will have to put a conveyor junction here to satisfy the pipings and plumbings here, but that should be fine. Let's get our power situated by putting that reactor right down the middle. And of course, we'll throw in the uranium that we have, the minimal uranium that we have, 3.2925, which is little to nothing, unfortunately, but that should be pumping out some juice now. I think I have it on, which I probably should. Yeah, I can leave it on because we need power anyways. So we've been living on borrowed time through one of these hydrogen engines. Looks like we are out of ice now, which is even worse. Our mining ship still has a little bit of hydrogen to pump some energy if we want to do that, but mainly going to focus on keeping that there. Did we really run out of ice? Yes, we did. Now we got little to no hydrogen left. We're again living on borrowed time. Ooh. We have little to no hydrogen on this thing either, but I think we have hydrogen on here, right? Nope. Yes, we do. We still have some hydrogen on this specific ship. So if we need to, we can get the ship attached back into the base to get the hydrogen. So how we're gonna do that? That's gonna be a tricky one because the connector's right there. The ship, well, we could get the ship to attach there, given that we get a little bit of hydrogen in here. What I'm gonna do is actually gonna do a little bit of quick mining. So let's just flip this thing over, get this thing on, gravity gen on, and if we need ice, we've been getting a lot of the ice here anyways, and luckily it's a good patch of ice, so we just, you know, kind of keep mining this. We should be decent in terms of getting the hydrogen that we need. All right, so gravity collector has been working a little bit better with the ramps here, the extended ramps, to collect as much as we can. I mean, there's still gonna be some stragglers back here. We try to do as much collectors as possible, but you still get a little bit down here, which is not a lot. I'm actually even okay if I just lost all these, to be honest. Not a big deal to me. All right, so we should be getting some hydrogen back into this now. Right there, 100% right off the bat, so quick. So what we're gonna do here is basically go ahead and get some uranium, which is bit far away, and I don't know if I specifically need the modular connector. Yeah, the modular cargo connector right there. I didn't like where it was in the back because it was burning through the hydrogen thrusters when I was picking up cobalt. It would serve a lot better down here. So that means I would just have to flip over one of the connectors to kind of make that work okay. And it's going to be mostly ore, so it doesn't even matter which port I use, whether it's small or big. But if I put it towards the bottom connectors, the only risk is this burning it. So we could move the thrusters right over here. And that'll give us 5 width in terms of that instead of getting it burned down. But if we did it this way, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 width exactly. So we technically don't want to get it exactly because that's where it's going to cause issues. So leaving it like this is probably a better bet because it's 3 wide in length. So what I'm going to do is basically cut this down. So we're probably going to need a converter. So we're going to plug the converter right over here. And then the conveyor or connector, we're going to plot kind of next to it. I guess we could do it right over here. You know what? We don't need a converter because we could just do a big old tube here. Or a conveyor junction. There. So then that way we can connect it and everything has some kind of connection point as well. And there. That should do it. So it gives us a nice little extra space for the cargo. We'll take the thruster here and let's just install the thrusters first. There we go. So we got upward thrust fairly easily. And then we can connect into that connector as quickly as possible. And oh yeah, did forget to mention a little bit of the upgrade on this saddle mining ship. So we did do a little bit of upgrade to it, as you can see, compared to previous episodes. We added a whole bunch more of hydrogen tanks, so the small ones. So we have one here, 2 here, and then we added another layer of drills. And we also did add an O2H2 system right here, the Bubbles version 1. Not really liking this design that much because it's not compact anymore. So it's going to impact my drilling a little bit, which is going to be a bit annoying. But it should be a quick run anyway, so shouldn't be an issue. So as you see here, our closest uranium it is going to be about 20 kilometers away, roughly. We have good oxygen, good power. So let's just get going. And I didn't realize this, but for some reason, the saddle cockpit actually helps get my O2 and H2 levels up. I know I have an O2 H2 generator, but still, it is wide open. So for some reason or so, maybe it's up my bottom or something like that, where it's helping me plug in and get some O2 and H2 whenever necessary when we're sitting in it. So yeah, there's that. Shoot, I should have added a ore detector on this ship. It's a mining ship, and yet I did not put one. Oh, there you go. Never mind. We're okay. It could have been deep in the asteroid if I didn't go searching there. So an ore detector would have been helpful, but it looks like the uranium is right up here anyway, so we should be good. So we're going to try to add and gather as much as I can. I should have did a sorter so I can throw out the stone because I definitely do not care for stone. So this is going to be really, really helpful to get a whole bunch of power for our asteroid station. Yeah, I don't imagine running into any stone issues with this big old patch. So there's that. I feel like maybe we should get a drill station here. So we could find a way to automate it, gather all the uranium that we can as much as possible. And whenever we need more uranium, we'll send a drone to grab some and bring it back, if anything. Because obviously going back and forth doing this manually, it's not going to be fun. So we're going to have to find some automation here. Alright, I think that's more than enough. I don't want to fill up the drills too much. But we managed to get mostly and all uranium. Not mostly. All uranium. No stone. Well, not surprising because this is a big old patch of uranium itself. So we are good here. Well, maybe we should GPS this to be the uranium. So we know exactly where it is and not have to kind of scoot around to look for it again. All right, time to head home. But of course, with a little bit of editing magic, we'll be home in no time. All right, we made it back home with no issues whatsoever. But of course, the fun starts here because there's only one real way to just tossing out all the precious cargo right into our collectors. We're gonna see how much we've racked up total. I think we did pretty good. At the same time, we can play a game here of dodging your ores, if anything. It looks like we racked up about 51k worth of uranium, which isn't bad at all. And that's gonna get refined once it feels like it. For whatever reason, it's refining cobalt, and it takes forever. And that kind of tells me you're done with stone. No, you're not done with stone. Why you? I'm not sure why it's doing cobalt now when everything is saying stone first. But eventually that should be fine. But yeah, but I definitely need some uranium. So there's that too. And we could definitely use some batteries, which we didn't plot down yet. So batteries, more or less, I didn't want to put them down just yet, only because they're not very efficient, is one. And two, if I plot them down, I got to figure out a way of removing them later down the line. Because you're going to end up losing the power cells, which is not terrible losing power cells. They're not that expensive. But it would be annoying to having to grind them down and remake them. So if I could put them in a particular spot where I could just remove them later down the line, I think that would probably be our better bet here. So this being the core, this should probably house all the batteries and everything that we have here. Kind of don't want to put it here because that blocks the stairwell. So we could put some like in between here. And if we want to remove them, that's where it's going to get tricky. So, I mean, for the time being, maybe we just plop it on top for now. All right. Warfare batteries are complete. We put some floodlights here, angled down, just to give it a little bit more light in here. Which we could probably just increase the radius a little bit, just to give it more brightness. That looks pretty good with the floodlights. Of course, unfortunately, these can't be done because we need a ton of reactor components, which we're not going to have anytime soon. All right, so power's looking good. It looks like 23 hours of power because of the reactor, and the uranium, I believe, is still on. And also, since we have 4 sides open, that's going to give us a bit of an issue with threat. So if something does decide to come on this end and shoot us, it's definitely going to take us out on one end, but it's going to have issues coming in, especially for a large ship. But still, we need to defend ourselves a little bit as well on the outside. But for now, what I'm planning to do is add more power, or different sources of power. So we have solar panels right over here, which I plan to kind of barricade ourselves for the time being, so that when things are trying to get us, they'll leave this out alone and come through the front door. But I'm thinking if I put the solar panels, that's actually going to cause more issues, because they're probably going to shoot down the solar panels before they come to the front door, if anything. All right, so that barricades that part of it. Unfortunately, I can't put any down the middle. I could put one line of it, but there's only 2 blocks, so it just looks a little bit ridiculous, but it's fine. We'll barricade this with some light armor blocks for the time being. We're not even gonna weld it because we could do that off cam if anything. Well, I should put a half blocks here, but that's fine. We'll leave a bit of a hole right there so we can easily come in and out. Well, not really easily, but good enough. Ooh, there's a bit of a hole here. Or is that visual glitch? Looks like a visual glitch. All right, so we still got a lot more to do, but at least for now, we have uranium power, sun power through the solar arrays, and also ice power. We do have a little bit of ice power, but do you want to put it in the core system for now? We could have ice power here as a core system if we really, really wanted to. I mean, we're living on an ice asteroid too, so we should be okay. And as I mentioned in previous episodes too, we got tons and tons of ice asteroids all around where we are living now. So I wouldn't be too worried about losing ice as well. But I think I could add a nice little power station, I think. It looks like we do like 4 of these guys touching the batteries like this. And nothing is plumbed or piped in for these hydrogen engines anyways. But we're going to put something right in the middle. So we can easily throw in some ice whenever we need to. Alright, so for now, we do need to put an O2H2 system here, which we could throw it... Ooh. Alright, so we can't just throw in the O2H2 system right in the middle because it doesn't have enough ports on each side. So we got to throw in a conveyor junction for now. Now the O2H2 system, either we do it from here to the reactor underneath us, which looks a little terrible. Or do we put it on top, which also looks a little terrible. But we also need to keep in mind some space because we will be drilling a little higher too. So let me throw it under here for the time being. And at any given time when we do need some extra power, we'll grab as much ice as we can. Looks like we carry about 10k of ice, which is insane amount of ice in a backpack. So we could throw it here in the O2H2 engine, and then as you heard the engine start, which is pretty cool sound. Oop, I didn't get this done. So yeah, so if we ever need extra power, I don't know if this is going to stay like this. I highly doubt it, but anytime we do need extra power, this would be the ideal situation for the time being. I should have probably hooked up some hydrogen tanks on this thing, but not necessary for now. We'll plumb everything up a little bit later down the line. We still got to do a lot more kind of off camera, on camera in terms of time lapse to start drilling out a bigger height. Again, we're going to probably settle with this height here and go straight down the asteroid right through the middle. But at least we resolved our power issues. And of course, one quick thing. Let me know in the comments down below if you like the time lapse at the end of the video or not at all, so I know where to place it next time around. For the time being, I'm going to put it as a short time lapse, which is going to be a really, really quick time lapse. Of course, don't forget to check that out. And I think the next thing we're going to do and work on is going to be our factory. All right, we're looking pretty decent. Time to rest up and get ready for our next adventure. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. Drop a comment down below, even just say hi. And of course, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.